Dana Citron, Vice President of Marketing for Orbital Fire Cybersecurity, and I'm so happy to be hosting the Women Leaders in Manufacturing podcast, created and sponsored by LIMEP, the Long Island Manufacturing Extension Partnership, and their Executive Director, Amy Erickson. So I am excited. Today I'm here with Elena Garouk, Executive Director of FuzeHub in their beautiful offices in Albany, New York. Elena, it's so happy to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me to the podcast.
Yeah, this is great. So before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about FuzeHub?
Sure. So FuzeHub, we're about a decade old. We're an innovation-led technology what I call economic development organization. We're focused on helping small and medium manufacturers and manufacturing innovators really access resources to help them commercialize and help modernize their products and their production. We do it through several programs. We work around the state doing events, and we have a lot of other opportunities for companies to engage with each other. So we kind of like to be a hub or a platform for opportunities, resources, and expertise for the manufacturing community in New York State.
That's great. Well, I know we've done a number of your events, and I know the manufacturers really gain a lot from the expertise that you have from this organization.
The events are great. Yeah, I know everybody's in a virtual world, but there's really nothing like that kind of face-to-face interaction, and I think that FuzeHub is a real leader in that area.
Yeah, that's exciting. So you've led FuzeHub through major statewide initiatives to help them with growth and innovation, the small and mid-sized manufacturers. What really drew you to this mission?
So I started my path actually in economic development. It wasn't really planned. It was a place to be until I figured out what I wanted to do. And since manufacturing, technology, innovation are such key drivers of the economy, those are the areas that I focused on early in my career, which kind of led me to what I'm doing now. So in my early 20s, I was involved in the conversations of attracting a fab. That was 25 years ago. It shows how old I am. I was involved in heading up bio conferences, venture conferences. I worked on programs that had to look at industry clusters in the capital region. So even though I was young, I absorbed a lot. I learned from the people that I worked under. And I think now more than ever, I see FuzeHub's mission as such an important driver of the economy, because all those areas that we focused on in my early career are kind of what drove the economic growth of the capital region. So to have that now view of statewide and to really look at all the different regions and pockets of the state and how they're looking and growing in different sectors is just exciting. I think it's a great time. There's so much innovation happening in New York State. There's so many new products and new ideas that are being developed, and we get to be in the middle of all that.
That's really exciting, and it really makes me think about my next question, which is FuzeHub sits at the intersection of industry, government, and academia. How do you keep those worlds aligned to really create and drive outcomes for those manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of why FuzeHub actually was developed in the first place, is to really look at that collaboration between, I mean, obviously we're funded by the government and Empire State Development and a lot of other federal programs, so they're great partners kind of driving that, that mission. But we take a look at all of the great universities in New York State. They have so much expertise to offer, and a lot of times industry really need to tap into that expertise and don't really know how to access it. So early on, FuzeHub was tapped at really understanding those assets across the state, and we have the benefit of being part of the Empire State Development Science, Technology, Innovation, also known as NISTAR Innovation Ecosystem. And that network has so much to offer for technology manufacturing companies. So we do our best to become experts in what those centers have to offer, so we can connect companies at the right time to the right place and the right person.
That's exciting, because there are so many opportunities out there, and especially I'm sure you see these small and mid-sized manufacturers really are just focused on trying to get, day to day, getting their work done. They're working with a small team, and even the mid-sized ones that are bigger, it's to be able to access the type of opportunities that really New York has to offer.
Right.
You really make that possible.
And sometimes it's just having a conversation, you know. I mean, we try to formalize things here because we have metrics and impacts, but you know, sometimes just knowing someone who knows someone, there's only so much you could keep in a database, and that's good. And you know, those are great. Those, you know, looking up stuff on, but just understanding things are constantly changing. People are constantly coming, going. New programs are being created. So kind of having your finger on the pulse of what's happening, I think that's what FuzeHub is good at, because we're out there, we're doing those things, we're collaborating with those partners, we're trying to understand what's coming out of the universities. And so, and it's not just universities, it's other resources. We have some great partners. Orbital Fire is a perfect example of just what is the need in the community when it comes to cybersecurity, and just making sure we understand all of those resources that are available.
That's great. And I think because of the work that you do, you've really made an impact in helping to position New York State as a hub for advanced manufacturing. What do you see as the state's biggest untapped opportunity?
Yeah, I think that we still have our challenges with helping manufacturers modernize, right? I definitely think there's an opportunity for those kinds of programs and services, but showing the ROI for a small manufacturer is still challenging. You know, like you said, they're just looking at, you know, their day-to-day and looking at AI and automation and sensors. I think we have some great centers that are doing a lot of work there. We're making great strides, but I think there are more opportunities, or there could be more opportunities to help some more companies if there are additional resources to get them kind of over that hump.
You know, in terms of your experience, how's being a woman in an executive leadership role shaped the way you think about inclusion, you know, within manufacturing?
Sure, yeah. You know, I could only speak for myself because I've had a very different history of my leadership as a woman than maybe some others have had. I've actually have had great experiences. I've had men that have actually pushed me into roles that are succeeding. And so I think that I find this is a great opportunity if in this industry, and I can't speak for other industries, and I know there's challenges, but in my experience, especially in economic development, I see a lot of women in leadership. I was just at a meeting the other day of all the accelerators across the state, and all are being led by women. So it's an exciting time. I have some great mentors right now that I'm looking at that I strive to be. You know, they're all female led. I think that there is a lot of opportunity for women. Again, I haven't experienced some of the challenges others have, so I can't speak to how to go through those hurdles. But I know for FuzeHub, a lot of the companies that we help are women or minority owned, so it's really exciting to kind of see that growth in that sector of companies that are, you know, creating and innovating and having a place in the community.
I love that. One of the things as we've gone through this podcast, you know, I've had the opportunity to speak to several women leaders, and you know, the drumbeat across all of them is really to make sure that young women realize that there's so much opportunity in manufacturing, and it isn't a male-dominated necessarily. And even, you know, as economic development, still you're a piece of that. That's a piece of that manufacturing ecosystem, and how there's so much
there is
that they should look at.
And if you look at you go to our events, you look around. I mean, there were years, I would say 2 decades ago, it wasn't an even ratio, but now I look around and there's an even ratio. I mean, I would say some of the manufacturing, the larger manufacturing companies, but a lot of the small companies, the companies that are creating innovation, there is a lot of change in kind of who's leading that. There's a lot of male and female ratio that is kind of evening out. So I think it's great.
Wow, it's very exciting. Now, you regularly work with startups, scale-ups, you know, legacy manufacturers. What advice would you give women entering any of those kind of size organizations?
Sure. I think you have to have your understand your community, have your mentors lined up, have your allies lined up. I think if you come to the table with the assumption that you're not going to succeed because you're a woman, I think you're going to come with a loss of confidence. It's going to show. I'm usually not sitting at a table with a group of executives and thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this because actually I kind of think the opposite. So, I don't know how the other interviews are going, but I have a lot of pride in the abilities that I have and my ability to multitask and kind of see things through. So I would say, have that confidence. Don't assume that's going to happen, and maybe it happened to you in the past, but I think every experience is different. I also think learn what you don't know, and if you can't learn it, find someone on your team that can make up for it. So I'm running a manufacturing extension partnership center. I am not a manufacturer, but I have engineers on my staff who could have those conversations. I'm a leader. I'm operations. I'm doing all these other things that I do well. So build your team to make it a whole experience for what you want to put out there.
I love that. And I do hear that, the leaders that I've spoken with, it really is, know your stuff.
Yeah.
Do it with confidence.
Do it with confidence.
Surround yourself with, expertise, and just make sure that you create a really holistic team.
Yeah, and if you don't know something, I think, when I got this position, I was always so nervous, what if I don't know the answer? And I've learned that you can't know everything.
Yeah.
And again, so don't be nervous to admit if you don't know something, but go out and learn how to find that information or know somebody who does and bring them in, and that's how you that's how you represent yourself well. And I think confidence is key. And I'm still working on it. I'm not the most confident person at all the time, but I definitely think going in and considering yourself equal is a great way to start.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, what does success look like for you? Not just for FuzeHub, but for the manufacturing ecosystem that you're helping to build.
For FuzeHub, I think success looks like just a resilient and vibrant innovation community and economy in New York State. And I do think we have that. So I think we want to continue that and look at programs and adapting our programs or creating new programs that support those areas. All of the programs that FuzeHub has or have developed have been to address a need. So we're not just doing things because we think they're great. It's because industry has told us we need this, we need resources for this, or we need expertise for this. So I think listening to the community, listening to the manufacturers, understanding their needs. I mean, we've talked about cybersecurity, big need. So we put cybersecurity programs in place. We're doing events on cybersecurity. So I think the more knowledge we can give our companies is the more power they're going to have. And if we're helping those companies succeed, they're going to be providing more jobs, high-paying jobs. They're going to be giving back to the community. And to me, that's success for the state. So that's success for FuzeHub.
Is there one story that, or a moment from your work that really reminds you why this mission matters and ties all that together for you?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's so much of a moment, but it's sort of an action that I had taken. When FuzeHub received our designation as the statewide manufacturing extension partnership, we were tasked at creating an innovation fund. And when I looked at the Innovation Fund, and at that time it was called the Technology Accelerator Fund, and the concept was really helping manufacturers move forward, helping startups commercialize their technology, helping maybe a smaller or medium-sized company modernize, look at their product. How do they, get that valley of death? There's an area there. They just need that push forward where a bank or a credit card or family and friends doesn't really work. And I thought about that need and how excited companies were going to be able to access that funding. And when I was in my early career, I worked for a gentleman named Jeff Lawrence. He's from the Capital Region. He worked at the Center for Economic Growth, and he died unexpectedly. And so when I thought about the fund and the mission of the fund and what it was going to do statewide, I just thought of him for some reason. So I got permission from the state to name the Innovation Fund after him. So it's the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. And it just keeps him alive. I have a name badge of his, which is really odd, on my desk at my house. And it just keeps me, he was such a part of a lot of the younger economic development staff at our organization, helping us grow. He always had a smile, but he believed in us. He didn't say a lot, but when he did, you really listened. He just was so proud of the work that we all did, and he was just a great person to work for. So that's my moment for, what I think is special in my years at FuzeHub so far, being able to name the fund after Jeff.
I I love that for so many reasons, right? To honor his name and just for everything that it sounds like he stood for.
Yeah, he did. It's just like the work that I do now just really reminds me of, I feel like I grew up with him, right? He was like a second father. So doing this work really just reminds me of all those early days with him and all of the different areas we were working on, all these different technology areas. And he was my boss, and he was a great one.
Oh, I love that. Through all the time that you've been doing this, how do you keep the momentum going across so many diverse partners, programs, personalities?
Yeah.
You know, there's.
It's a full-time job. I think we are becoming better at it. I think our recent involvement in going after large federal awards has really put us in the middle of understanding how to have a more inclusive conversations with different organizations at different levels. And I think it's about listening and collaborating. Not everyone's always going to be on the same page, and I think you have to work on those areas, but you have to have an open and honest conversation about where you're going and where you want to be. And eventually, some folks are going to fall off of that mission, right? And the ones that kind of would like to work with you are going to move forward. I think it's really understanding that you want those different voices at the table, because that's what creates excitement. That's what creates innovation. If you keep working with the same people at the same time, you're not going to change. You're not going to do something different. So it's really a great experience when you bring in these different, different backgrounds, different personalities, different expertise. We're recently, in the last few years, been working on a semiconductor initiative. So we're meeting all these great semiconductor experts, and it's just, having a new view of the world through their lens is really exciting. So you just kind of have to keep that going and be fair. I think also, I don't think we have a hidden agenda of any way, so I think that really helps us. We're non-for-profit, so that's also great, but we really just want to help the economy in all different ways. We're not, it doesn't have to be over here, it doesn't have to be over here, so we're really open to be flexible and nimble, and I think that's what makes us a great platform for those collaborations.
I love that, and especially, and you said this earlier before, and I know I've seen it, you're always asking what you can do for your manufacturers and try to deliver just that to get all these people together. Right,
and we do surveys, we talk to our partners, we don't claim to know it all. We're a team of, there's 12 of us all together, and we can only go so far. So we really rely on our partners in the community and our partners that we work with to help drive some of our initiatives.
Elena, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, this has been wonderful, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Innovation Summit.
Yes, October 29th and 30th in Rochester, New York, and we'll have one every year next year in Buffalo.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dana.